Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Advanced Knife Bro designed stump lifter, complete with the blade. We have the bottle opener, a little bit of a flathead scraper, what have you here. I am not a person who often carries traditional style knives. I normally also don't review them. And the truth is that I don't find them all that interesting. And they always seem to fall short of what I expect from a pocket knife. However, every now and then, and you've seen, because I do have reviews of these style knives here and there. Every now and then I get one, I'm like, man, that's real nice. Or, that one's got, a lot better fit and finish than I typically expect from this little corner of the knife hold. I understand there's lots of different makers and things like that. But Advanced Knife Bro, if you're not familiar with Advanced Knife Bro, please go subscribe to his channel. His content is absolutely excellent. There's much more effort in his content than mine. I think he makes some of the best knife content on YouTube. It's just all the way around a great guy, super funny, great personality. He is a lot more particular about what he expects from knives like these. And I want to point out that I don't necessarily think that people should be carrying the absolutely, the absolute most optimized pocket knife for whatever they might do that day. I think it's more about what makes you happy, right? Carrying what makes you happy. Really stumbling around my words today. This is one of those knives that I found that carrying it and having it on my person just made me happy. And I also felt like it was truly optimized as far as what I expect from a traditional slip joint style knife. I think there's still one version of this Blade HQ exclusive left. It's in the yellow bone. This is the green bone. I chose that because if you didn't know, green is my favorite color. And I thought this looked really nice. These are, to my knowledge, manufactured by QSP, which perked my ears up because QSP has wonderful fit and finish. And what I've seen from a lot of traditional knives, especially those that are like under 150 or so, I'm not saying all of them. I know the traditional knife community is going to come after me. Not all of them, but a lot of them are like in the fit and finish department, right? I know you know what I'm talking about. Some of that stuff is straight up poo-poo town, right? This is very nicely put together, and it's not pinned. It's actually got Torx construction. And the blade is 154 cm, but not just 154 cm. It's hollow ground 154 cm. This is a ridiculously sharp blade. This is something that I feel like it's a material and a grind that we don't normally see. Sorry, I'm trying to get a piece of paper. I forgot how to tear a piece of paper out of a notebook. We don't normally see. God, that is just whoops. That was a terrible cut. Terrible example. But it is stupidly sharp. Unbelievably sharp. You can obviously get caught up in the, that's where the sharpening choil caught it. But really cool. And something that brings me a level of satisfaction that I don't normally get from these style knives. We're going to go over this. Is going to be a fairly quick review because it's pretty straightforward. And specifically, just before we get started here, I think people who like traditional style knives will get a lot of joy out of this. Thanks so much to, I bought this by the way. Thanks so much to me for buying it. Thanks to Advanced Knife Bro for designing it. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. I'm going to do a full length measurement with the blade out, just like we do with the other knives. Blade out. Overall length is 6.35 inches. Blade length is just shy of 2.75, about 2.7 inches. Cutting edge is about 2.5 inches. Size comparisons, any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Other. So up against the 8010 and the 8020.5, it's on the smaller side. How about something small, right? Let's do something like the Civivi Baby Banter, right? So it is bigger than that. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3? Why not put it up against some traditional knives? Because I don't own any. I don't own them, right? Up against the PM2 and Para 3, yep, it's smaller. The cutting edge is somewhat close to the Para 3, actually. So keep that in mind. And then finally, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How's the action on this knife? Well, the action is quite a bit different than what we have come to expect from modern, more tactical, God, I hate that word, tactical knives. When I, pick up a slip joint, I want it to feel like how I expect a slip joint to feel. Now, some people prefer a heavier pull, right? And I always get mixed up if like a 1 is heavy or if a 10 is heavy. I have to assume a 10 is heavy, right? This is definitely on the heavier side. And for me, that's great. It might not be for you, but for me, that's great. That little nail nick there offers some pretty good means of digging in and pulling that blade out. But most importantly, that mid stop or half stop is solid. I hate a mushy, gushy, just floppy, loosey-goosey mid stop. It just feels like hot, wet trash to me. When I handle these knives, I want a distinct snap into the closed position, a stop, and snap into the open position. I don't know that I've ever felt a traditional knife like this that's as perfect as how this feels. It feels perfect, and I have to assume that's Advanced Knife Bro being very, very nitpicky. I feel like he prefers a heavier pull and a distinct sort of mid stop. I'm probably not getting all my terminologies correct, right? I'm posing as somebody who knows a lot about traditional knives when he actually doesn't. I'll just flat out admit that I know very little about the history and the makers, and I'm not nearly as embedded in that world as I am with the more modern folding knife world. But as far as my preferences go, I do like those distinct spots, and it has that. It's also very easy, as I miss it twice, it's also very easy to get this second tool out, but it still is plenty heavy. So this, you can see that that's pretty deep, right? Clip your fingernails, but I don't think, unless your fingernails are super long, right? Which, come on, why you got one fingernail longer than the others, right? But as long as all your fingernails are trimmed, right? You're probably not going to break your fingernail off. Trying to get that out of there. So, anyways, yeah, the action's good. It runs on washers. As far as I understand, that's how it's listed on Blade HQ. But it feels good. It feels really, really high quality. Nothing's dragging. Nothing's grinding against anything else. It's just great. I really like it. Materials. Like I said, 154 cm for the blade. Honestly, don't know what steel the tool is made out of. Could be 154 cm. And then we have this green bone here, and then the rest of it is going to be steel, which we can actually test super quick with the magnet that is normally right here in the box and is for some reason, it's because it's behind it. All of this is steel. Every last bit of that is steel. And by the way, I know this is something else that like people, who like traditional knives like to look at. You want to look at that piece right there, and you want to see how well does that line up here. Let's get a good... Oh, look at that. It basically disappears. That's really nice. Look at this area back here. See that? Oh, boy. The scale fitment. This is QSP. That's why my ears perked up. I was like, oh, well, if QSP's doing it, that's great. Everybody, a lot of other traditional knives that look like an old Lincoln log fort, right? Like it's holding together, but it's a little bit, you better hope your little brother or sister doesn't come by because they're definitely going to kick it over. Like that's kind of what I expect from a lot of other companies. Not all companies. I know I'm going to get a flood of comments. You should check out this company. I'm not a traditional knife guy, right? They just, every now and then, something interesting. It was the green that got me. This shade of like hyper nuclear green. Anyways. We'll go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them, not fight them. You cannot fight my tools. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Let's get a T6 out if I can find it, because I have to guess the scale screws are T6, which is fine, right? 2 T6 on each side, and then I don't even need to get the tool out. Those are T8 right there. Let's just recognize that what we have here is a traditional design that is accessible via Torx screws. Thank you. I have no complaints. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Though I will admit, I've never taken apart a traditional knife. So I'm sure there are additional complexities involved, especially when you have like tension, right? So be aware of that. It's not going to be like taking apart the Ontario rat, right? Going to be a little bit different. But you do have access to the inside. Those of you who, want to brave the waters, you want to caulk the wagon and float across, right? That's always risky, but you can do that. You have an option. Let's weigh it. Steel, some sort of green bone. Is it like dyed bone? Is that what it actually is? Interesting. And then 154 cm. I'm going to guess it weighs 4.25 ounces. No, less than that, 3.7 ounces. So, not bad. Blade stock thickness. We'll measure that here real quick. Come on now. People are like, just change the batteries. You won't have to worry about that. I know. Blade stock thickness. Actually pretty thin, 95 thousandths. So there you go. All right, meat and potatoes time. Why is it specifically I feel like this is, why am I so attracted to this, right? The idea behind knives like this, the style is you can get more than one tool. Now, I've handled a lot of different, traditional style knives that have like 3, 4, 5, 6 tools. And the truth is, on a lot of knives, I end up using basically none of those other tools. I have a Leatherman. I don't carry the Leatherman. I find it to be a bit too bulky for me. I just keep it in that tray in my truck, and I do use it. I also have one in the junk drawer of my kitchen, and I have one down here, and I do use those. I don't like to carry them. I like to use them. Because I feel like 95% of the tools just aren't getting used, and I'm carrying around a blade and like a little pry bar, essentially. That's what gets used, and occasionally the bottle opener. That's why this is so appealing. It is a little bit thicker, right? I mean, we didn't do carry profile, but I mean, it's definitely thicker than the Para 3, but not massively. You have a blade, which will definitely get used, and you have, in my opinion, probably, for me, the two other things that would get used the most. Right? Now, this doesn't lock, so prying, but as a little flathead, sure, absolutely, right? And then the bottle opener. I'm going to use that, right? You might not use it, but I'm going to use it. Those are, in my opinion, those are the two other most likely tools on a knife like this to get used, and it's like 50-1, right? You're going to throw like an awl on there? I ain't using that, right? You might. I'm not. There's a bunch of other crazy stuff that just doesn't get used, like a saw blade. Man, I'm not using that. I'm just me. I'm not saying like everybody who has uses for those tools is an idiot and I'm smarter than. I'm just saying, like, personally, the reason I like this so much is it has everything that I could possibly want, and it looks classy AF. I mean, yeah, I know a thing or two about stuff that's classy, and this is pretty classy to me. But it really does. It looks good. Like, it's not a little skinny little thing, right? It's got contoured scales. The transition from the frame to the scale or the overlay scale is just really nice. Like, there's no jagged edges or anything. It just feels good. And that blade, God, that blade is really wicked. Advanced Knife Bro. You clearly knew what you were doing with this blade geometry, man. Like, that is really, really great. This is, it's rare that you see such a performance-oriented blade on a knife like this. And it's not some, it's not like 440A. I had somebody argue with me the other day about 440A. I saw a review where the guy said it had pretty good. The edge seemed to hold up pretty good there against, he was cutting a piece of wood with, yeah, well... 440A is crap. I'm sorry. It's, what is that? That's 7CR17 MOV. That's the Chinese equivalent, right? So if 440A doesn't ring any crap bells for you, perhaps 7CR17 MOV will. That is factually a poo-poo town steel. I find that a lot of traditional knives have weird steels like that. Sometimes you get 420HC. Sometimes you get like a carbon steel, and that's fine because those kind of match the time period where these types of knives were prominent, and those were much more premium steels, right? But on modern traditionals, I see like 75, 85, 120, $150 price tags. What's the steel? 440A, 440B. What? That's crap. That's crap. 154 cm. Admittedly, I don't think 154 cm is necessarily like blowing it out of the waters in terms of, potential edge retention, which seems to be the universal measure of quality when it comes to knives. It's a multi-directional teeter-totter of composition, right? There's lots of different elements. No one element crowns any steel king, right? 154 cm is balanced, good toughness, good corrosion resistance, right? Good edge holding capabilities, and is very easy to touch up, which is much more important than any one of those elements by themselves if you're going to be using a knife like this throughout the day for various tasks, right? I love 154 cm. I think it's great. It's nice to see a steel that I'm much more familiar with, and I know to have, a lot more of those elements that we expect, cutting. A 440A blade will work just fine, but it doesn't really have a lot of other really fantastic properties and will probably, fall short long term versus something like 154 cm. I think that's a really great choice, and it also feels appropriate at this price point, right? It's hard to argue against 154 cm because it is so well balanced. It's just kind of the middle of the road, good steel. It's not like an ultra premium, right? It's not ultra instinct Goku. It's kind of like Kaioken Goku, all right? Right before he fights Vegeta. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. That's what it feels like. But the blade geometry, super duper thin, wonderful, and it looks great. QSP did a great job on the finish there. Snappy. You're going to have to carry this with a slip. I mean, you can carry it in your pocket and just let it flop around like this, right? You can just let it do this in your pocket all day, right? I don't know about you. That bothers me. I'd rather carry it in a slip. But you can do that if you want to. It'll be fine. This is a type of knife that'll survive for years and years and years due to the corrosion resistance on the steel and the corrosion resistance on the frame. Obviously, just polish it up just a little bit. But this is the type of knife that's pretty tough. You can toss it around, knock it around, right? Don't pry with it, but because you literally have something that's better suited for prying attached to it. It's amazing how many people I remember working at the dealership and there were tons of guys that had knives like this, and it literally had this on one end, and the blade was just snapped off of the knife, of the blade part. I'm like, what happened to the tip? Well, I'll use it as a screwdriver and a pry bar. I'm like, yeah, it has a screwdriver and a pry bar. It has a tool on the other side. Come on, man. Come on. Use the right tool for what you're doing. This is the blade. This is the tool, right? For screwing and prying and all that stuff. Opening bottles. Anyways, can't wait to get Advanced Knife Bros feedback on this review. Really, really cool. Huge fan of the over. Oh, there's like some debris on there. I just now noticed that. If you've been watching this review this whole time and you're like, what is that black stuff? Is that like a big scar in the metal or something? No, it must have been just, it feels like maybe some sort of adhesive or black material stuck via adhesive to the steel, but no, it's actually perfectly fine. It came off of there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this as far as slip joints go. Now, do I think there are better day-to-day options that would make your life like more convenient? Well, yeah, sure. But if you're big into traditional knives and you kind of have the same nitpicks that I do at this price point, can't disassemble them because of pin construction, really lackluster fit and finish versus a lot of modern folding knives nowadays, perhaps subpar, feeling of action. Maybe the blade is a little bit wonky, the bevel's a little wonky, right? Subpar steel. You just can't justify. You're not willing to spend as much when you can get a knife that has more convenient manipulation, ergonomics, and better materials that will perform better, right? You don't want to pay for this sort of classic looking knife. You don't want to pay for that element, right? Well, this might be the answer. Because it has that look, it has those elements, but it's got all the other stuff that these knives at this price point are normally missing, at least from my perspective. $120. Yeah, I obviously don't have a problem with that because I bought this. I think this is a great knife. It's really cool, and it's very, very rare that I enjoy something like this. This is something that I would feel good about carrying, and as a collector and enthusiast, and somebody who is a content creator and has respect for Advanced Knife Bro and what he does on his channel. That's also a really cool element there. So we didn't really talk about the Stump logo, but you know, if you know, you know, it's right there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I like this. I enjoy it. I think that I can put this in my recommended knives playlist, but with again with an asterisk. For people looking for this and wanting, you know, the modern knife world elements, I think this is really going to nail it for you. And I don't think the price is bad at all. So there you go. That's going to be pretty much it. I said this was going to be short. It was 20 minutes long. Whoops. Links for this knife down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.